Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Inside Texas YouTube channel powered by Inside Texas. I'm here talking with Ian Boyd about kind of the brutal 2026 Texas football schedule and maybe the ways that Steve Sarkisian can navigate it and what plays to the strengths of this team when it comes to facing some of these really tough teams. Before we get all the way into it, make sure you're going over to Inside Texas and checking out this awesome sale we've got going on. Just $1 lets you join right now, and then you can get your first full year 50% off for new members. That includes all of our football discussion, baseball heading into the postseason, basketball, and everything in between. Ian, how you doing this morning?
Good. Just a warning at the front of the show. The kids are out for summer, and the wife is not. So it's me and all 4 children. So if there are some interruptions.
Kids are out for blood, it sounds like. They're coming in. They want to talk Steve Sarkisian. They want to talk some football, which we're going to do. We're going to throw on your article from yesterday, which was a really good read. And you've taken a lot of kind of Bill Connolly's SP Plus stuff and analyze what it means and how these numbers can reveal about what a season looks like. And pretty clearly, Texas's schedule is one of the hardest in the entire nation. Probably of the main title contenders, it is the hardest. And that's not been the case for some of these national title teams, Ian, and the ones in the Big Ten who have really been winning recently. They've not had these brutal schedules, and if anything, they've been playing some real easy games down the stretch.
Yeah. Maybe Ohio State, the year that they won, had maybe the hardest schedule in the regular season. They had like 4 games that were clearly tough. They had to play Michigan, which they lost. Michigan was unranked. That was that first Sharon Moore team that was like 8-4 or something, but they still beat Ohio State. They lost at Oregon. That's obviously a tough game. They whooped Indiana. That was the first year with Cignetti. And then they had to beat Penn State, which is technically a tough game. It always seems to go one way. They actually split those. So like most of these top 4 teams kind of limped into the playoffs. They didn't necessarily have super hard schedules, and they kind of limped in. So it's Ohio State, who was 10-2. Everybody's talking the whole time, is Ryan Day going to get fired? Then they just start blowing people away in the playoffs. They obliterate Tennessee. They obliterate Oregon. They edge out Texas and then beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame, this is the Notre Dame team that lost to, I don't even remember, was it Eastern Illinois? Who was it that they lost?
It was Eastern Illinois, and I think so.
Yeah, and then the rest of their schedule was pretty easy. They rebounded and went 10-2 or something, and they sneaked into the playoffs late. But it was everybody was questioning it the whole way until they started winning playoff games. Miami basically snuck in because the league didn't want to put an 8-5 or 8-4 or 7-4, whatever it was, ACC champion in, but they didn't want to leave the ACC out, especially since they had to put in 3 different G5 schools whose coaches were all leaving.
Yeah,
it's a terrible look. So Miami sneaks in at 10-2, and not a hard schedule. Obviously, they're playing in the ACC. It's their schedule is maybe a little harder than Texas Tech's last year, or something like that. And then who am I missing? Who's the 4th team?
I believe those are just the 3 to talk about. Michigan, Ohio State. Oh, Indiana this year.
Oh, yeah. Indiana did not have a terribly hard schedule this year. They intentionally played garbage non-conference. And then they had a tough game against Penn State, but Penn State was 7-5 or something. Yeah. It's got a good game in that one. They played Oregon was their toughest game.
Mm-hmm.
This is when you only have to get up for 2 or 3 games a year, where Ohio State had to get up for 4 that one year, and then they just had to split them, and then they're in.
Yeah,
that's been the formula for teams that make it deep, and that's just not going to happen for Texas this year. It's not possible unless the schedule unfolds in some super fortuitous way where everybody's beat up or injured or turned out to have been overrated. Looking at it right now, we can talk about this because it's probably worth a quick discussion. But I see 5 true this could be a playoff team opponents on the schedule for Texas next year. And then a few others that are, no cakewalk.
So we're calling that Ohio State, Oklahoma, A&M. We're saying Ole Miss there as well, and then LSU.
Am I counting Oklahoma? Is there somebody?
I feel like we can count Oklahoma, at least defensively.
Yeah, I guess. I
guess. But I see what you mean. At the very least, when it comes to these preseason rankings and the power ratings, I mean, they're all going to be top 16 teams, and that's at the very least what we talked about. The SEC is sometimes you might catch these teams on a down year, but it doesn't mean they're not still talented, and that maybe one game they catch you, which is exactly what Texas saw last year with Oregon. But it is a little different level, because even Ohio State, when we're talking about that team, like Michigan that year wasn't a CFP contender. They were just lucky to kind of get up on their feet and finish that season off with what they had going on at quarterback. And of course they still beat Ohio State, but that wasn't even playing a true title contender. And they were still allowed to split those games and find their way into the playoff. And I do wonder if, like, last year, Ohio State at 10-2 has the same merit to get in as they did clearly the year before, but that 10-2 record was not a very good one for Ohio State coming in. And then that overall resume for them in Miami, they both weren't anything spectacular outside of the win column.
Yeah, it was nothing special. I read this book when I was a kid, some baseball book when I was a kid, that noted that the killer Yankees that would win the World Series all the time usually followed this model where they would split against good teams in the regular season and then just obliterate bad teams. And that's kind of been the model in college football since they expanded the playoff. And that's definitely the model right now, where it's like, hey, if you just beat everyone you're supposed to beat, and then you just get a split on 3 or 4 tough games a year, then you're going to qualify and you're in. And then from there, it's on, right?
Yeah. Well, that leads us right into kind of your formula that you were talking about here, and explain this AI projection, because I've seen you talk about it, I think, twice on IT now. But how does this work? How did they get to this 38 points, and why is it that this Texas team is projected to be a you got to put up 38 to win kind of program?
Well, what I heard is that I was hearing about the degree to which different programs are now either using AI models or outsourcing to nerds that really know how to use AI models to do it for them. It's probably more the case than the former. And they're just running all kinds of Moneyball type projections. What's our schedule look like? What do we need to do? How do we win? What are this team's tendencies? Is there anything that we can pick on where they're if this team is in this formation, we're going to get this? Because then you can put it on your call sheet. And if you see it in time, you can signal it into your players and basically be like Brent Venables with the perfect call. It has the potential, when you have a really good tendencies dialed in, and you can put it on your call sheet and communicate it to your players in an effective way. It elevates a lot of coaches to a Brent Venables or Gary Patterson level of insight and precision in play calling, which is very dangerous for other teams, right? And this team, this was a strong team that's on Texas's schedule that has a very difficult schedule of their own, and they were running AI projections, and it told them that the Texas was the toughest game on their schedule, which, if I don't want to give anything away, but if you saw the other teams on the schedule, you'd be like, oh, okay. I can tell you about it later, Evan, if you want.
Yes.
That it told them, if you're going to beat Texas, imagine Jonah Hill, we need to score this many runs to make the playoffs. It was you're going to need probably 38 points to beat Texas. So that's what I've heard. Thinking about that and putting it together in my mind, that tells me that my reasoning of what that means is that they're expecting Texas to be so explosive on offense that you can't really hold them down reliably. There's not a good plan that you can execute to hold them down, at least not for this particular team. So it's basically, you got to win a shootout.
pretty much every time. And that 38-point mark wasn't really hit by Texas much last year. I'm trying to remember the exact games or maybe Mississippi State and Vanderbilt when they had that run. But that wasn't what you were scouting for near the end of the season with the Longhorns, as we have a new analyst joining the desk here. That wasn't what the scout would have been last year for Texas. It would have been, you go after the clear weakness on offense at left guard and force them to have to take some hero shots at the end of the game, the way that Manning did against Florida or even in that Mississippi State game. But a pretty clear difference and also just kind of highlighting how well Sark did to rebuild this offense and what it looks like. And that's what happens when you have Cam Coleman. But talk about this kind of going the distance in the games and what you mean by the way that his script can help this Texas Longhorn team actually get these kind of knockout punches here.
So I think the danger of the Texas' schedule having, like 5 playoff contenders and then also like Florida at Tennessee, Mississippi State, even Arkansas, potentially like tough games
to care about.
Any of those could easily be like you're hanging on in the fourth quarter, right? So what I'm thinking is Texas might have a formula to avoid getting into like 8, 9 extremely tough slobber knockers where the game is getting all the way to the fourth quarter and the game is still in question and you're playing your starters for extensive snap counts and just putting mileage on everybody's bodies and taking tread off of tires, Yep. If you could just blow through some of these teams to where it's not, that wasn't so bad. That seems like a really good way to navigate the schedule and not have it be quite as grueling as it looks like it could be.
Yeah, and with this expanded playoff, like if Texas were to go to the SEC championship this year and lose and place them in kind of that 5 to 7 seeding in the playoff, if that team were to go on a national championship run, they're playing 17 total games. They're playing an NFL schedule and even more expanded than what the NFL used to be. So that level of keeping endurance and keeping these players healthy is probably the most important factor when it comes to what you need to do against the teams that you're favored in that we were talking about earlier, where if you need to go, 3-2 against these playoff caliber teams, you better go and take care of business against Florida and Tennessee even and these UTSAs. But let's talk about the actual offense itself and the personnel. The early part of the game is so important for a Steve Sarkisian offense, the scripted plays, and that's what gets people excited about what this team can be and what they can do early on, really with that Cam Coleman deep, Ryan Wingo short mentality, Ian. But also, I think some people are going to like the names brought up here. Like the screen game is what really has gotten them going this past year. And that's where Texas can really, especially against these inferior teams, get out to that early start that you need to kind of cruise along through a game.
Yeah, the overall explosiveness of this team is very potent. So you have no one wants to hear about that right now. You have the obvious, like, throw it deep to Cam Coleman. You could score at any given moment doing that. You could score at any given moment throwing like a screen or a short pass to Ryan Wingo that he just houses.
Saw that a lot.
Yeah, that's like all they had last year. And
yeah, that was the play.
It's really hard to stop that. Even like if you're not a really good team, that can get you. So that's already a couple of big things that make you say, hey, we may have to play deep and conservative against Texas, right? And just try to limit big plays. Also, discouraging you from blitzing is the screen to Wingo, but also screen to Raleek Brown, screen to Nick Townsend. Like the tight end screen could come back in a big way that we used to see to Jatavian Sanders. And then Arch Manning, you watch that Michigan game and you remember like, oh yeah, Arch Manning can house it from just about anywhere on the field at any given moment if he decides I just need to go get this game, right? So that's a lot of explosive potential. Like, and then obviously the run game in general. Every time you turn around and hand it to somebody, it's Hollywood Smothers or it's Raleek Brown. Maybe it's Derek Cooper. All these guys can break off long runs too.
when I look at the Texas explosiveness last year as well, I believe the numbers were saying that it wasn't Arch Manning when he was doing design runs. That's not when the offensive generated a lot of yardage and explosions. It's when he was doing these scrambles or at least some sort of RPO decision-making play where he could get one-on-one with a defender. And that's where I just don't think teams are going to be able, and at least outside of the truly hyper-athletic defenses that maybe the Ohio State can come out in, which Patricia has his own genius in his schemes, especially early on in the game. Outside of that, like, teams are going to have to play a little bit conservative, and that's where the two-pronged attack of I can run 12 personnel, 2 tight end, and just run the ball at you, but also we have Cam Coleman out wide and Ryan Wingo out wide can really put a defense on balance, because you need to get a safety down if you're going to run the ball at will and get these 5, 6, 7-yard chunks from, I think, especially Smothers early in the game. That's going to be his forte. But then the safety comes down, you can't really double up on Cam Coleman, and that creates an unlucky kind of matchup for the cornerback, because then you're just running stride for stride with one of the best pure athletes in football. Ian, talk about this MMA elite knockout puncher kind of analogy you had here, because I'm not some big MMA guy. I'll watch it at a bar with my buddies, but what does it mean to have an offense akin to Alex Pereira with a knockout punch?
So as you've just been further extolling, they have all this explosiveness. It's going to be really easy for Sark to draw up plays that put people in impossible situations. Like, no, I can't come up and support the run on Raleek Brown or catch him. I'm like 30 yards down the field making sure Coleman doesn't score, right? Mm-hmm. So that kind of knockout power is what I'm calling it, because he's just like, you could just drop 3 touchdowns in a hurry on a team and they're in a bad spot, right? And they're basically beat. I'm comparing it to like a fighter or a boxer that can knock an opponent out at any given moment with a good punch. So like in today's UFC, Alex Pereira, Ilya Topuria are probably like the best at that. They're just famous for lining up and just knocking people out. And what happens to teams when they're dealing with the pressure of like any given moment could come that right hand that's going to knock me out of this game or knock me out of this fight, is it forces like a super heightened focus, potentially a little bit of panic. Mm-hmm. And as like Paul has explained in some of his strength and conditioning soliloquies on here in the past, panic exhausts people. And that sort of like constant heightened focus and stress, mental stress, exhausts people. So defenses, there's just a tremendous amount of potential for them to become completely exhausted trying to counter this style. And then you can just basically blow them all. Yeah.
And Blake Bryan makes a good point. Like I think of the Arizona State game back in the playoff where I believe they started out 14-0 on about 6 offensive plays. Like the first drive, it was an RPO to Golden. Yep. And then I believe DeAndre Moore, someone just got wide open in the back of the end zone. And that, Arizona State had gone either 3 and out or, first down and out that last drive. And that also, it tires out the offense. If your opposing offense can go and score within 5 plays and then force them to the other team to go out and play against Texas's D line and have to be forced to try to run the ball, but then also need to be able to pass to keep up with Texas. So, you're making the point here that just a lot of teams aren't going to be able to do that. Like, there's not a lot of teams with the offensive firepower on the schedule to do that. Let's talk about hammer time and what that means.
Yep. Yeah. So basically what you want to do with the Sark team is draw up a good script, score early, put on a couple more touchdowns in like the second or early third quarter. Sark has his like opening script, but sometimes he saves, or a lot of times he saves a couple more shots for later in the game to sprinkle in. Texas is like, this is the best setup Texas has ever had to blow someone away early with the script, like they would in like the better Quinn Ewers years, like 23 and 24. Put up a bunch of points, create a bunch of distance between them and the opponent, and then you're not a UFC guy, but the knockout guys, a lot of times what happens with those guys is they have all this power. They can knock you out super fast. They basically have a lot of fast twitch muscle fiber that makes them able to punch so quickly, so powerfully. But then if the fight goes the distance to like 3 or 5 full grueling rounds, those fast twitch muscle fibers burn up too much oxygen and they get into big trouble. And there's like a saying with a lot of the different knockout fighters. It's like Conor McGregor. It was like, if you can get him into the deeper rounds, he's not going to be able to knock you out anymore. And then you can beat him. Texas, but a football team is not like that because you have a roster of more than just one person. And hammer time, this is the part where people are not going to like this part, but this is the part where Texas can do a lot to kind of protect themselves from overexposing their skill players and putting like a Coleman or an Arch at risk, which is you get your lead, you score like twice in your opening script, you got a couple more, maybe it's like 28-6 early in the third quarter. Now you just go on cruise control. Now you send in Masunis. Now you send in Spencer Shannon. Now you just start running the freaking ball.
Yeah. And that's where having the two running backs in Smothers and Brown is even more important, because kind of like the Bijan-Roschon duo, this is probably the most talented duo of backs you've had since then. And it's not quite Bijan Robinson just kind of making plays for himself. But if this O-line does hold up, then that third quarter run can just be, it could be 5, 6, 7 yard chunks from these running backs. And they're not going to get tired the same way the defense is against this Texas offensive line.
Yeah, you're basically leaning on the other team. If they're at a little quick section in here that is maybe, I think Homer is accepted.
Yeah.
This is how it is. Well, Merck in the whatever. This has already worked really well for Texas. The only year this didn't work was year one, when they kept blowing leads because they couldn't do this. Every year since then, they don't blow leads. It doesn't happen. They may make it a little tighter than you want at home watching on the couch, but they've generally been good.
And Vanderbilt's probably the game to point out with that one. Like, they did win the game. They held that lead for most of it until a few mistakes with 5 minutes left.
In 2022, they were good at it, mostly because Bijan and Roschon were really good. Also, Jordan Whittington was kind of an unsung factor in that because he was such a good blocker at receiver. So they could play – they would play like 12 personnel that was really like 20, 22 personnel because Whittington was almost like a fullback. And then they were good at this in 2024 because that was the best offensive line they've had with Cam Williams and Kelvin Banks. Gunnar Helm was a senior. Gunnar Helm had become a solid blocker. Juan Davis was a good kind of fullback type guy off the bench. They'd bring him in. They'd run outside zone for Trey Wisner. And they buried like A&M like that, even with, a couple of red zone turnovers.
Yeah.
They buried Arkansas like that ultimately, etc. This is the best run out the clock personnel that Sark has ever had at Texas. The offensive line is really well suited for it because you got 2 veteran transfers in. This is Trevor Goosby's 4th year in the program, right?
Correct. Contract
year for him going into the draft. You've got, I want to say, 5th year Connor Robertson. He may not be like a mauler. The NFL was not a question for him, but he's like, he can help you just grind teams out late.
He knows where to be.
He knows how to make the calls. He'll hit his marks. Baker at guard. Lawrence Seymour. None of these guys are road graders. But if you're just running outside zone from 12 personnel over and over again, and you're cycling through Hollywood Smothers, Raleek Brown, Derek Cooper, who's the other guy we keep forgetting now? James Simon is really good at that. Jet Walker is going to be really good at that. Maybe we don't even see him this year, but he looks like he's going to be good at that. There's not a lot of risk of wearing down their own team playing that style.
Well, and I'll add to that, like, you have 4 tight ends that can be used in this. Now, Amari Winston's probably the one left out late in the game like this, but we've talked a little bit about Sark and maybe 13 personnel being a thing, and that would maybe come out more when it's a true short yardage situation. That's something the Rams rode all the way through this time in the playoff, in their playoff run. So that's there's so many layers to what this could be, and the way that this offense can actually run the ball and wear out these games. We're going to keep talking about this, but first we're going to hear from our good friend David McClellan before we jump right back in.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
Let's cut back into it. One last part here, talking about.
Wait. Let me get to this
here.
Before we wrap it up, we pull up that Blake Bryant. Maybe we'll get to Ryan Nelson's question too. It's kind of relevant on here. So Blake, if anybody's listening on a podcast, they just grinded teams down in 2024 late in games. They even did that in 2023 when Brooks was healthy, and they did it with Baxter against Iowa State. Yes, that's exactly right. They did that with Alabama and Iowa State. Just kind of leaned on them and knocked them out late.
Alabama is a perfect example.
And again, 2023 would have been awesome at it, but they didn't have like a healthy and a particularly reliable running back room. So like by the end of the year, it was when they were playing like Washington, it was like Jaden Blue and was it Wisner?
No, that was still freshman CJ Baxter at that point.
Well, they were like they were pretty good at this, and they would still get into trouble against like Washington and against
and then Keelan Robinson would even get some of those touches.
Yep. I think Wisner did too.
But it was mainly the Baxter and Blue duo that was kind of ending these games for Texas, and that's where they couldn't run the ball as effectively in late in that game. And then
Kansas State is the other one.
Yeah.
They would have been awesome at this, but those guys would fumble. So like Washington, the fumbles killed them against Washington, and the fumbles killed them against Kansas State. But otherwise, they would have been awesome at this.
Yeah, and then that was more on. I mean, you had the best running back in the country in some regards at that point, at least statistically with Jonathan Brooks. So it was less about a roster building problem, just injury luck. But imagine the best example of this, because people get nervous about like running the ball and giving the other team a chance. The best example of this is that Clemson playoff game, where they just were like, okay, we're just going to run the ball. And Clemson was like, well, we can't just let them run the ball, or we're not going to have enough time left to get back in this. So they're trying to load the box. They're trying to fire stunts and do all kinds of stuff. And then what happens? Jaden Blue breaks off like an 80-yard run, and CDC is like cueing the mariachi band up in the end zone section, and everybody's cha-chaing, right? Like this is when you can just run the ball. It's really effective for just like killing clock and grinding a team down, especially if you have like a Wisner that's just like a reliable guy who will find the hole, pick up first downs, and keep going. But with a running back room this talented, you have that, but you also have like the potential to just blow it open and get them to really start waving the white flag if you start breaking off long scoring runs because they're loading the box. That's exactly what stands out for me with that Clemson game. And I'd even go a tier further and like for how many of you watched the Seahawks run, and they were more built on having that, the best defense in the NFL, but like they get up to a small early lead and just pound the rock with Kenneth Walker and have two big tight ends. AJ Barner's really good blocking tight end. And it would just be like, well, we have two running backs. We have the best receiver in the NFL, so you're always going to have some kind of eyes on him, but we can just churn you down. And Ian, talk a little bit about how a good defense can also play into effect here before we maybe take a look at the schedule.
Oh, yeah. This is probably worth its own article. But so like you have this team that can score points in a hurry, put teams down. This is a really bad Texas team to be down multiple touchdowns against. The one thing you definitely want to do against this Texas team is be able to be patient and run the ball. Because it's like some of these linebackers, and maybe they make mistakes in the new scheme or something. The linebackers are small or they're inexperienced. You really want to be able to be patient with the run and try to hammer Texas and start getting like wear down the D line, get the linebackers second guessing their keys and making mistakes, blah, blah, blah. If you get down a bunch of touchdowns, that's out the window. And not only is that out the window, but now you have to deal with, instead of making sure that Ty Anthony Smith or Rasheem Biles know their run fits, now they're just in attack mode and Muschamp is blitzing them. Now you have to actually block Colin Simmons and protect your quarterback. You have to block Lance Jackson. You have to attack this secondary that has a million different coverages and like NFL athletes all across the back end. This is a terrible, terrible team to get into a mode where you need to feel like you have to start throwing the ball to catch up.
Yeah. Very
so,
well put.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential. This team is very well constructed to land early big shots and then just hold teams down and not give them a chance to get up.
Yep. And that's where the Muschamp system that puts a little more emphasis on aggression and maybe going to get the ball. I mean, a turnover when you're up 2 touchdowns that keeps you in the 50 area or even in opponent territory. I mean, that's a dagger sometimes in an early third quarter. And that's where this defense should be a little better at doing that than this past year with Muschamp, where they were just kind of playing off. And even when they needed to stay in these games and stay aggressive, like that wasn't part of the game plan. So it's pretty exciting to think about the tandem the offense and defense can play together in like the perfect storm of, like, let's say we're at Tennessee, like Texas getting out to an early lead in Neyland and silencing the crowd, and then forcing any super inexperienced quarterback, whoever's starting for them, to have to throw the ball against Colin Simmons in these corners. Like it's a disaster waiting to happen for a team like that.
Yeah, let's even list. There's a number of teams that this could save Texas from a.
Let's change tabs. Got the schedule right here, and I think one of the things that
you want to avoid Kentucky's. You want to avoid like last year's Kentucky game. You want to avoid last year's Mississippi State game, where you're like throwing with all your might just to survive a game when you still have real games left on the schedule.
Well, what helps Texas in is that the 5 hardest games that we pointed out, and even if you want to throw a Tennessee in there, like this is being sandwiched by G5 teams. Ohio State is. Tennessee and Oklahoma, there's a bye in between them. There's a game in between Oklahoma and Ole Miss. LSU's a decent bit later, and then you still have the Arkansas game at home in between that and Texas A&M. So at least these games are at least kind of spread out, and you can conserve your bodies if you're doing this philosophy correctly against Mississippi State and Missouri to get you into that LSU game.
Yeah. So the games I see where this is really helpful are at Tennessee, like you said. That's the perfect game. Like, just don't even make it a question. Don't make it Texas versus Neyland. Make it Texas versus McIntyre, or whoever. Exactly. Honestly, Oklahoma, they don't want to be in a position where they're trying to come from behind. That's not a good setup for them. Ole Miss, if you can get Kewan Lacey out of the game, that makes an enormous difference.
Spy the scramble.
Mississippi State is very much going to be a running team. If you can take that off the table and make Kamario Taylor a passer, that's huge. You could potentially make that game a lot easier. Missouri is also like that because they have – who do they got Austin Simmons
Simmons with Ahmed Hardy, who I think he's going to be good to play this year.
That's lucky getting hit, hitting. It just makes me think of getting shot in the leg. Always makes me think of Black Hawk Down, where that poor guy gets it in the femoral artery.
I've seen far too many war movies, have not seen Black Hawk Down, so I'm not picking up this reference.
It happens in Band of Brothers too. This dude accidentally shoots himself in the femoral with a Luger.
Oh God! No running back for that guy.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like, you can get hit in the leg and it can be like all muscle and meat and you're fine, or it can hit this enormous artery and you're in huge trouble. Glad for Hardy that he seems to be good. Missouri, I think, is a team that could get into major trouble.
I thought so too. That's exactly what I thought you were going to.
But he didn't shoot himself in the femoral, right?
No, he was able to play football after that, I believe.
Yeah.
He was just an idiot. Yeah, that's where Sean Taylor got hit.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's a very easy way to die, getting hit in a major artery.
35 minutes into a live show, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, if you're going to go to war, maybe get just make sure you don't get shot.
Cover those arteries.
Of the leg. Yeah, protect your arteries. Arkansas, you can bury early. I think LSU and A&M and Ole Miss to a lesser extent, those teams in Ohio State, those teams will kind of it's hard to make those teams totally go away.
Well, let's talk about LSU, because Ryan was specifically asking about that a little earlier. We weren't forgetting about that, Ryan.
Oh yeah.
Can you do this against a team like that, especially in Death Valley?
You have to keep scoring, I think, against LSU.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing about Kiffin is that a lot of times his offenses aren't necessarily as explosive. They are like, he will put together drives on you, because he'll take what you're giving him and just hit plays over and over again. It'd be like watch Ole Miss versus Oklahoma last year. They killed Oklahoma on third down. Oklahoma actually would defend them really well, and then on third down, Kiffin would scheme a guy open, or Trinidad Chambliss would scramble for 8 yards, or something like that, and then just keep going. So they're like spread. They're a little tempo-y. Ole Miss is, but although they have a new coach now. Oh, sorry, we're talking about LSU anyway.
We're talking about LSU with the Ole Miss.
He will keep coming at you, but there is a point at which, if you get to the third quarter, end of the third quarter, up 10 on Kiffin, it's not over. But if you're running the ball, he's in big trouble, because they're not generally that explosive. That's not quite their style. They're a little more methodical than that.
And that's not quite, definitely not Caden Durham. It is for Harlan Berry. I mean, that's a guy who can gash a defense, but that's, at least the running back is not the same level as Lacey when it comes to just pure hand the ball off and grind for a full game. And if you get them deep into a game and it is kind of a run versus run who can control the ball, I think you still are in favor for Texas in that scenario if the tight ends are kind of as advertised for this team in 12 personnel.
Yeah, if you can run the ball. If you can run the ball, then you just keep 5-7 minute drives ending in field goals or good punts or even touchdowns. And it's, it can kind of play big brother and palm attached to the forehead, Yeah. And it's really hard to come back against that unless they're able to consistently convert red zones. I think Levitt and some of these quarterbacks, John Mateer, Levitt, Julian Sand, some of those guys, they might 1 minute they're making you sweat, and then the next minute they're throwing the game away. They have a little bit of that in them.
Mm-hmm.
Chambliss, I think, is better than that generally, and maybe Sane is better than that this year, but he was not last year. Maybe Levitt is better than that this year, but he was not last year. Reed, we'll see. Kind of same story.
Yep. Let's focus in on the Ohio State game really quick here with this idea we've been talking about, because I contextualize what all you're saying and what's important for Texas to get out to these leads, and it's going to be harder to get out to a lead against Ohio State. But is that not a team where clearly, especially as a home game, like you really want to just force them to say we have to throw the ball? Bo Jackson's not going to be a big factor, and then Texas, and I know it's been with the defensive coordinator, but it's never been the Jeremiah Smith show against Texas. They've always had ways to guard him. They have the athletes to kind of bracket and keep up with him with two people in some area guarding him. When you're forcing Ohio State to make plays on the run and use the secondary wide receivers who, without Hartline and without Carnell Tate, those guys are just a little bit more question marks than we're used to with Ohio State.
No, they have that Chris Henry guy now.
That is Henry. I was thinking more of the portal guys, but yeah, you are right. Henry's going to be a problem there. But I do think if you're forcing them to throw, you have a little bit better of a chance against the Jeremiah Smith offense.
No, I don't want them to throw.
Really? Okay.
Well, I don't want them to throw deep. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That game is kind of its own animal. I like probably you want them to try to run the ball, I think, and not be able to throw it deep to Henry and Smith.
Yeah.
If they could let him throw it short, that's fine. Make Julian say and be accurate, but he might be up for that. So, one thing with what we've discussed today in Ohio State, one thing that is unique is that game will be in Austin in September. And if we're lucky, it'll be like 100 degrees on the field. It is a night game, but hopefully it'll be like 90 degrees.
The night until halftime.
Hopefully it'll be like conditions like that LSU game back in 2019.
Yeah.
And that's where both teams will be playing. Both teams can apply a tremendous amount of stress to the other team, because Ohio State's got the tremendous balance with like two unworldly elite deep threats, and then they're going to be Arthur Smith, maybe even under center, hammering you in 12 personnel with Bo Jackson and whoever else they have a running back. And Texas is explosive for all the reasons we already articulated. So both defenses are really going to be up against it. And it's going to be really tiring for both defenses.
Do you see that? You gotta get to 27 or more to win a game like this.
Maybe. These games, it's hard to know. It's hard to know with those early season games.
We might have been saying that. I don't know exactly what can't remember the exact discourse, but part of the argument last year was like, well, you're gonna have to score up with Arch for Ohio State's sake. Like they're gonna have to be the team that scores 24, and then we knew their defense would be good, but then of course not even close to how the game script played out. But we talked about the point earlier in the show about finding the games that you can split, and then obviously taking care of everything else in the rearview mirror and making those games easy. And that plays into the idea of getting those early shots out, and also maybe being able to use your secondary guys in the fourth quarter. And there's some clear games in that field. Texas State, UTSA, you want to get your secondary guys in as early as possible, and probably Mississippi State and Arkansas, but
Tennessee, like you said, you want to blow them away early. Yeah.
Get those games over with and out, not tire out your team. But I think the difference between Texas and some of these past winners is Ohio State wasn't even really 4 games. It was kind of 3, and then they had a freebie in there. Texas has at least 5 here that they're going to have to win, and 10-2 easily gets Texas in the playoff, but I don't know about 9-3 at this point in the 12 teams. So when you're looking at these games, I mean, does that not put even more onus on Ohio State being a win? Because if you're at 1-0 with Ohio State, it suddenly becomes a game of going 2-2 against Oklahoma, Ole Miss, LSU, and A&M. And that seems pretty reasonable for a team this talented, especially going into November where LSU and A&M are both on the road. Those are going to be tough games.
Yeah, I will say I think, if you beat Ohio State and then the 2 rivals, then you're good if you take care of business in the other games. So you could lose LSU and Ole Miss and be okay, right? Mm-hmm. The other way this could go, though, that would also be fine, even though it would really infuriate fans is you lose to Ohio State, but you win your 2 rivalry games, and then you protect home field against Ole Miss. Speaking of our 5 big ones that we keep mentioning, and then you're 10-2, and people will be like, "We really need the spiritual lift of seeing us beat Ohio State." It's like, okay, but you might have to play them in the playoffs again anyway.
I don't think the players need that.
All that matters is getting to the playoffs and then being a confident team that's playing with a clear identity when you get there. So there's really nobody that you have to beat in the regular season except for your rivals. That's still
I think especially Oklahoma, that's just not a game given where it is in the year following Tennessee, but also having Florida and Ole Miss right there. And I think Cord and I have talked about this. Like if you enter November, which is right after Mississippi State, at Missouri, at LSU versus Arkansas, at A&M with just 1 loss, it'll be hard to tell me, especially that they've won all these games before and you've gone, I guess that'd be 7-1 at this point. Like Texas is in such a good spot with just 1 loss going into November, but 2, and things are really, really dicey given who you have to play.
Couple of good Ryan Nelson points. He said, beating Ohio State gives you a trump card because Ohio State is likely going 10-2. So he just means like in terms of the playoff hunt.
Yeah.
If you're 10-2 and one of your 10 wins is over Ohio State and they're 10-2, then like it could be like Miami and Notre Dame last year.
Yeah.
Where Miami jumped them at the last minute, and then the easy justification for it was Miami beat Notre Dame. That is true. I think if Texas is 10-2, it doesn't really matter if you beat Ohio State or not. If you go 10-2 against the schedule, you're just in. So I think that's true, but I don't think that matters as much. Can you bring back his second argument? It's also okay. If Texas lost to Ohio State, Ryan Nelson says that would show us we can't scale against the big boys. Need to beat Ohio State. Well, no. It would show you that in week 2 you weren't ready.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. If you win that game, you get that monkey off your back. I think that's great. But it doesn't actually matter as long as you can do it in the playoffs. Like we keep seeing that with everybody else. If you do it in the playoffs, it doesn't matter what happens in the regular season.
Yeah. I mean, Ohio State themselves had a Michigan-shaped monkey on their back where obviously they weren't in the playoffs, but like, well, if they can't ever beat Michigan, even if it's at home, how are they going to win a national championship? And then a week later, they're dominating Tennessee, and it's not even close in that run. And really, Texas was the only team that gave them a lot of fight in that playoff run.
I do think that game is a great opportunity to just set the tone for the season and pick up a huge win. It'd be a lot better to win it than to lose it, for sure.
For sure.
And it
just sets you up so well.
It sets you up super well. You protect home field. You have all that advantage. You're no longer going against a totally new and foreign defensive coordinator and defensive strategy. So that's really helpful. They also, obviously, last year, Texas went into the beginning of the year and the identity they thought they would have over the summer wasn't there. They had wide receiver injuries, and they ended up playing like a lot of double tight end and stuff. It took them a while to figure their stuff out on offense, right? It took a long while. They had a bunch of things where it seems like they were expecting one thing and then it was something else, like a left guard,
wide receiver 2,
wide receiver because Emmitt Mosley was injured and Wingo wasn't sharp, and it was like Livingston was their most reliable guy, but he was not like a Matthew Golden level kind of guy. And it was week 1, and they hadn't even played a game, and they were on the road in Columbus, and Arch was feeling all. So this year they have so much behind them. I think we'll probably get a return to like
Alabama, Michigan type of week.
Yeah, 6 month Sark.
Yeah,
6 month. Does that work? Yeah, like when he's got like all the time in the world.
All that prep.
Arthur Smith will be a little bit more of an unknown, but probably not. I think Muschamp can figure it out. And Sark in particular, when he knows your defense and he knows what you're trying to do, and he can, I think that'll be a big difference. So
let's talk about this comment right here about the defense. I mean, I'm not concerned about the offense really, but yeah, I mean, it's a new installed defense, week 2 against an Arthur Smith offense that you haven't really seen in college football much. Are we confident they're going to be up to the task in week 2 against a team like Ohio State?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. I mean, I see some holes, right? Like, I mean, the linebacker size and the ability to stop the run could be an issue, and cornerbacks are still young, but I'm not on the side that's super concerned about the installment of this defense.
Sandman, were you there last time Muschamp came? I know it was a long time ago, so on the one hand, maybe you missed it. On the other hand, you could say, well, that was then, this is now. It was so similar. There were all these question marks, and it was immediately great. Sandman was there. Okay, Sandman, just take yourself back. Take yourself back, 2008. I don't know if they did not have an early season challenge in 2008 like they do this year. It wasn't until Oklahoma. But yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah,
if Ohio State can run the ball and lean on Texas late in the game, yeah, that's not going to be. I'm not excited about that. But just the overall defensive quality, no.
I mean, let's put this one up, Ian, where we're at near the end of the show. Could Sark's 12-2s win the Big 12 with specifically Texas Tech schedule?
I thought definitely yes. Then I read Eric's piece on this, and I was like,
you look at that line.
Yeah, the offensive line.
Yeah.
And then I was saying, if they were running like more of a simpler spread offense, then I kind of think they would pretty easily, because the defense would be great. The offense would be like Bishop and McCutcheon. And
the skill and defense will be so high on this team.
Yes. And KJ Lacey, I think absolutely could be – he might be the best quarterback in the Big 12, especially by the end of the year.
Hey, Messamaker's there. Don't knock on UNT's finest.
Oh, I forgot about Messamaker.
But it's basically Messamaker and then a lot of kind of generals and guys who've just been in the same offense for a long time, and Connor Wegman. I mean, I think let me try to pull up Texas Tech's schedule really quick. But
Bear Bachmeier.
I believe, Bachmeier's good, but it's kind of in a Sam Ellinger way.
I resent that remark.
You don't like that?
You're using Sam Ellinger as like a pejorative.
Well, I'm just talking play style. I mean, that he puts his head down a lot on 3rd and 2.
This is disrespectful.
Let me get Tech's schedule up right here, since we're already down in the weeds of it. I mean, really, there's a Houston game early, and
golly, this is
at Oklahoma State. That's about.
I hadn't looked at the schedule specifically. I think winning the Big 12, my concern is the 2s and 3s O-line trying to execute Sark's offense. Gives me a lot of pause. If they were trying to execute like a different offense that was simpler, like mostly inside zone or something, then I would feel pretty good about it. I think these linemen would pull it together faster if it was just like inside zone, counter, pass protect, etc., like some of these other teams. But even against this schedule, they could maybe do it with Sark's offense, because this is what you worry about is any team with good D-line or the ability to bring pressure.
Really, Houston might be the only team of that group, of this group, that has. I think the Cougars are pretty good this year.
And you get them at home, apparently.
Yeah, you do.
I have no idea what Colorado has.
Have you seen the videos of them walking out of the tunnel?
I feel like Dion may not even know what Colorado has. They're like just overturning everything every year. Arizona State is definitely scary, but you get them at home, and you could just lose that game and still make the deal. One thing I'll say about the Big 12 now, though, is that this league is like 35 teams or something stupid, and it's wildly imbalanced in scheduling. Yeah. And if you lose more than one conference game, your odds of making it to the championship game are really low. Yeah. So your margin for error is really small.
I do agree with you that, like, if you simplify this offense down, it's funny. The O-line is it's less about the interior that I would be as concerned about. It'd be the tackles with the secondary team, because it's just Coleman and Kojo who haven't played a lot of football, where at least like Sikorsky's played in real games, and I'm Christian should be smart enough at center, and these aren't these dominant D tackles that he'd be screwed over. And if you're taking over the Texas Tech schedule, you're taking them out of the equation. Like, yeah, I mean, I do see the argument. Like, I see what he's saying, and it was about their schedule. It was not about, would our 2s and 3s just 1-to-1 down the line be the best team. So he makes a good point. Yeah, a lot of Dion jokes here. So use trash, shuffling the deck. I don't think Colorado's a player, but yeah, and maybe the linebackers on defense. But either way, I mean, Tyler Atkinson's a different level of athlete. Spence could be your starting Mike. Juice Cryer played at this kind of level, even higher in the ACC. Like, I'm not. Once you get into your 4th and 5th guy, maybe, but I'm not as concerned about like the linebackers would look like in this scenario.
Yeah, I'm looking at our line. You get the skill is so good.
Yeah, Bishop, McCutcheon, Lockett, Burkhalter.
Yeah, and you still have like one of Brown or Smothers and Simon and Cooper, Michael Terry III, I guess. I'm not really seeing it there, but the line, yeah. I do think, again, if the line were executing a much simpler scheme, and maybe Sark would go that way if he told him that he had the summer to prepare his 2s and 3s to win the Big 12. You have some talent. Like, Coleman is definitely talented. I thought Jonte Newman was surprisingly nimble and looks. He's not ready, but he was a lot more talented than I expected.
Sorry, I'm trying to pull up the title odd futures for the Big 12.
The line is tough, though. The line is tough.
And here are the odds. Try to zoom in a little bit here. I mean, Texas Tech is plus 105. Next best is 550 Utah or BYU, then Utah, then Kansas State, who they wouldn't play any of these 3 teams on their schedule. It just goes to show you what kind of schedule Texas Tech had. So, would they be better than BYU or Utah? We'll see. BYU returned a lot of talent, and Utah still got kind of that defensive identity, even with Scally there. So those would be tough, but they're not playing them. So
me and Vegas see this differently with Arizona State. They don't even have Arizona State on the board here. There you go. You got to way down 20 plus 2,200. They got that dude from Kentucky, a quarterback, Cutter Boley.
Cutter Boley, and then they got O'Marion Miller, who's like a legit threat down the field, like crossing routes galore. And they'll have wide receivers again. And Boley was pretty good at Kentucky, at least against Texas.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of Pacific Islander linemen they've been developing. Yeah. Some of them are enormous. So they're a little young, but man, I'm a believer in Kenny Dillingham until he bombs this year. I'm going to bet on him being better than expected. Yeah, they also have a dude named Kyron Brown, I think, that was like their number 1 running back going into last season. He got injured in the first game, and then Raleek Brown took over.
That's right. There was another Brown backup when they played against Scattaboo. I remember thinking how ironic.
Yeah, and he's back. They thought he was better than Raleek Brown or the Kanye Udo guy that they got from Army.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Dilly has a way with. I love so much of what he does, and he seems to put together teams really well.
I would bet on the coaching on a lot of these Big 12 teams, and just if you really feel vindicated about Sataki or what it looks like with Scally or especially Dillingham, like that's probably the way it's going to go in the Big 12 outside of Texas Tech's money juggernaut, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that one. Houston was way better last year than probably people expected.
Yeah,
and they got a lot of pieces back.
Here's who ASU plays: A&M, Tech, and BYU. I wasn't aware they played A&M.
Yeah, they play at Kyle Field in I think week 2 or 3, maybe week 3. That's going to be I think people should watch that one. Just if Sark ever decides like he's done dominating at Texas and wants to go to the NFL, then your list of coaches right now that are hot shots that you would look at would be like Lashley at SMU and Dillingham down at Arizona.
Chesney at UCLA, man. I'm liking what he's doing.
Chesney, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dillingham on the road and against the Aggies is a big one. Did Dillingham wait too long to jump ship? No, because you could have USC open up. You could have Notre Dame open up at any moment if Marcus Freeman decided to go somewhere else. If Sark doesn't want to be college anymore, Texas could open up.
Maybe. I mean, that's probably his dream would be the Oregon one.
Oregon for sure would be an exciting opportunity. I don't know if that's going to open.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But that would probably be.
They gave Lanning like steaks and Nike or something. Would you take Freeman to Texas if Sark left for the NFL?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not much of a question there. I mean, I think Sark's or CDC's 2 first phone calls will be Lanning and Freeman. Like, make them say no to me.
Yeah, I might as well. Shanahan, you'd call Shanahan, make sure he loves the NFL as much.
Yeah,
as
right.
throw like an insane number. But probably like Lashley or Dillingham would probably be where things might land.
Yeah.
If Ryan Day went NFL, you could get Ohio State. Or Freeman goes to Ohio State, and then Notre Dame is open.
I think Ryan Day is very I think he's very comfortable where he's at right now.
I think Oklahoma would have to figure out what they have and what they feel about Nagy.
Yeah, that'd be more of a Nagy call than a Venables one.
Nagy's got it good right now, where he has this head coach that is parallel to him, maybe beneath him in the org chart, and is sort of like a meat shield for criticism, but also is like one of the best 5 defensive coordinators in college football. So that's an interesting deal. They'd probably have to push Nagy out to bring Dillingham in, or else Nagy would have to be willing to be like much more subordinate. But Oklahoma for sure.
Did you see the neck brace, Ian? Did you get a chance to look at that?
Yeah, I hope. I read that Stoy. I made a joke that he hurt himself looking over his shoulder for Nagy, but I will say Venables personally been through so much in the last few years.
Yeah,
they said that they fused vertebra for an injury based back in his playing days. I hope that goes well, and he's not.
Yeah, that's tough.
He seems like the kind of guy that will like stay active and healthy. But
yeah, treadmill just up like this.
I do like Venables. Seems like a good guy, so I hope that goes well for him.
Well, when we're analyzing the surgeries and character of other head coaches, it's time to get the show wrapped up. So that's going to do it for us on the Inside Texas Live. Make sure you're going over to Inside Texas. For those who aren't subscribed just yet, make sure you're going over and checking out this awesome deal. Just $1 and then 50% off for your first year. That $1 gets you your first month, I believe. So pretty awesome deal to talk football with Ian and the rest of the staff, as well as some baseball and basketball if you're into that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Ian, thanks as always for coming on this morning. Hopefully the other little analysts around you are having a good day and a good summer. That's going to be doing it for us. Have a good one, guys.